I didn't contact this dude. This dude contacted me. He wanted to get some shit off his chest. All right, people. Joe Rogan, Rick Ross. So, uh, Joe Rogan interviewed.
Use me for that,
Have you ever seen anybody confront Rick Ross about you?
Not in person, no. Anytime I'm around.
So this is Freeway Rick Ross, right? You've probably seen him on Vlad and other programs where he's talking about he's a legendary drug dealer. Apparently, the rapper Rick Ross took his name and ran with his reputation and made like a career out of it in the rap persona, right? Now, this guy gets out of jail and realizes a rapper has his name, and he's apparently he tried to sue Ross in the 10th third. But now, listen to him talk about his thoughts about Rick Ross having his name. And Joe Rogan's asking him.
He disappears.
But is there any video of anybody hey, why are you running around with this dude's name when this dude's out of jail now?
Well, these guys, they kind of like we talked about, when you got some money, they don't care if you beating women or making them lick tampons. Everybody fuck with you.
Right.
So, he was on top of the world at one time.
He was a corrections officer.
Yeah, but he was. But when he got some money, they forgot about he was a correctional officer. You got gangsters, doing records with him, and people who say, "Oh, I hate snitches" and all this, but they doing records with a police officer who put handcuffs. I got letters from guys that was in jail with him when he was a correctional officer, and they told me what a shitty guy he was. That they would be shooting dice. He would take the dice and all the money, and they got extra soup. He'd take the soups, and
wow,
and just stuff that normal officers just don't. Officers. I mean, everybody in jail got extra soups. You save your soups because it might come a time and you ain't got them, so you stack your stuff up. But most officers don't even care. Who cares about extra soup? We trying to get the dope dealers and the guys with the knives, but then you got those ones, and they're like, "Oh, well, you got an extra pair of underwear. You going to the hole."
Yeah, and that's how he was?
That's how he was.
Shout out to Freeway Rick Ross. Man, unfortunately, this is like a moot point or a conversation that doesn't even need to be really had. Rick Ross's music career isn't even at the highlight or at its apex anymore. He already won using your reputation and your name. I don't think there's much to keep talking about, right? Like, Rick Ross is doing car shows and selling Bel Air and calling Drake white boy at this point.
They say that's the kind of cop he was. And then when I hear that he's the biggest gangster rapper on the planet, it's like...
It's just so crazy. What is it like having a dude running around out there with your name? Like, if there was a rapper out there named Joe Rogan, I'd be like, what the fuck?
I mean, it's crazy, like, how would you take my name and not have the decency to ask me first of all? You should have asked, but then never pay homage. He won't even admit that he stole the name. He tells people that he invented the name. Like, how the fuck do you invent this name?
Well, it's so crazy because the name was famous. Your name was famous. Everybody knew who you were. When the case came out and when the connection to the Iran-Contra affair came out, when everybody found out what was going on, like, you were a legend.
Yeah, you throw a few $1 million, toward Instagram and Facebook and the radio station, and everybody forget about that, and you put a little gold chain on, and you drive
nuts.
A Rolls Royce and a couple of pretty girls.
It's one thing if his name was Rick Ross. It's possible there could be another Rick Ross out there. I've met other Joe Rogans. That's real.
Yeah, me too. I met other Rick Rosses.
But what the fuck, man? The guy knows who you are. Everybody knows who you are. Takes your name. I mean, it's like, it doesn't even make sense that it's like, didn't you have a case?
It actually does make sense to me. Rappers have lived in the persona of these drug dealers and kingpins for years. I mean, Ross got a song says, "I think I'm Big Meech, Larry Hoover, whipping work, hallelujah. Like he's literally saying that these guys he's aspiring to be like. Again, a name and a moniker. Like, I mean, maybe they're like, if you're a naive person, you probably really think that Rick Ross was moving weight across the Atlantic. Once you get to grow up a little bit, you realize that's just rapper cap. Like, Jay-Z was rapping about him losing 92 bricks. Rapper cap. You know what I mean? Again, you got to take it with a grain of salt. So, like, obviously trying to, obviously rebrand yourself like you're the actual guy who had the reputation is a little bit foul. But didn't even 50 Cent supposedly, like, there was a quote-unquote real 50 Cent. There was a guy who died that had a reputation named 50 Cent, and then 50 Cent named himself 50 Cent. Obviously that's Curtis Jackson, right? So that seems to be like par for the course.
You had like a legal case about it.
I lost the case.
How the fuck did you lose?
They say I should have filed a lawsuit. The judge got to make a technical decision. She had to make a decision, when did the public first become known of him using my name. So what she did is she picked a little radio station outside of Miami that played his record for the first time. So that was the date that the public first became known that he was using the name.
So there was a statute of limitations of when you were supposed to address it?
Yes.
How much time?
2 years.
What?
Yeah, you get 2 years. So if we went by her time frame, I should have filed my lawsuit 5 days before I got out of jail.
Oh my God.
Yeah, naming the rights is kind of interesting. So, like, a lot of people will be like, yo, Ak, why do you don't DJ, which even though, by the way, like, low-key, I think I'm at the point, who do I got to hit up to get, like, a booking agent for DJing? I'm ready to get back into DJing. I'm dropping the biggest records in the culture these days. King Combs dropped his record, dissing the Feds, to me. Rick Ross dropped his record, dissing Drake, to me. Quavo dropped his record, dissing Chris Brown, to me. Drake named me on a song, dissing Kendrick. Kendrick named me on a song, dissing Drake. I think I'm like the biggest DJ in the fucking culture. I'm getting back to DJing, okay? So whoever want to book me for DJing, holla at me. But regardless, if you wonder why, especially early on in my career when I actually stopped DJing but I was still going to DJ Akademiks, is that there's a clothing company called Akademiks, right? And I think Gucci Mane went through the same thing, because you could have a name as something else that's super popular. You just can't try to misrepresent or confuse the public within their industry. Like, if there's a clothing company called Akademiks, I have nothing to do with it. If I was also selling clothing and call myself DJ Akademiks, it would be infringing on their trademarks or their copyrights, because they have these things for their industry, which is selling clothing, right? Now, obviously, I'm not doing anything that's similar to them. I'm making, doing rap commentary and doing media. So, obviously, we never got to a point of, like, them wanting to, like, well, maybe they did want to sue me, but we never got into a lawsuit. But I will tell you this: the company Akademiks, like, is it Akademiks Clothing? They blocked me. They blocked me on all fucking. So I don't own this website, right? Like, this is their website for clothes, bro. They blocked me on everything. They fucking, like, I can't even, like, on Twitter. They blocked me, like, which I guess maybe they saw, it was a historic hip hop brand. I guess they saw probably their brand kind of going down, me kind of going up, and it was like, fuck this guy, right? Regardless, I think Gucci Mane also did the same thing with Gucci, but I think Gucci at first didn't like that Gucci Mane was calling himself Gucci Mane. And once they realized they couldn't do anything about it, and he cleaned his image up, they embraced him, which was actually even dope. Anyway. Where's the fucking... Sorry.
I was 5 days late.
That's so crazy.
But I think she would have found another reason to come up with a date.
Well, the record company probably would have helped, right? I mean, think about how much money they're making off of him.
Oh, yeah. They would have owed me. They had 15 lawyers.
Oh, my
You know how much money they say they spent on the lawsuit?
How much?
$1.5 million.
Wow.
You know how much they offered me?
How much?
Zero.
They
never come and say, hey, man.
What would you have accepted? Just to, like...
Well, Joe, my mom, we was getting evicted out of my mom's house during the time of the lawsuit. So I imagine if she was losing her house for $220,000. So if somebody would have came up and said, "Hey, I'll sell your mom's house," because I was worried about my mom. My mom was at that time she was 83, 84, and one of my biggest concerns was her being homeless. So I probably would have took $220,000 if he would have came and said, "Hey, I'm gonna sell your mom's house. Let me have Rick Ross. Change your name to Mitch or whatever."
Well, you would never change your name. That's crazy.
But I would
Just license it.
I didn't even care about the name.
Right.
I didn't care about the name.
Yo, chat, by the way, look at this shit. Yo, there's 80,000 people now following this page. They're probably mostly fake, right? What the fuck? How many real people you think is on this page right here? I'm sorry. I know I just cut off from this like Joe Rogan, Rick Ross thing, but it's kind of fascinating. How many real people do you think is on this page? How much? It's not 5K. I'm going to figure it out right now. Chat, I'm going to go live on that page. And whoever joins the live is real. If they're not, because he's not on the call no more. We're not doing no bot shit with him. Whoever's in this is real. And whoever is not real. Let's see. Let's see, people. What the fuck? At this time, your account is not eligible to use this feature. Try again. How does that work? The hell? Wait, this. Why the hell can't I go live on this new account? Shit probably got flagged already. Never mind. I can't go live on it. It's all good. It's all good. The followers are still going up. It's probably all fake chat. Anyway, let's go back to this. So we have Rick Ross, Freeway Rick Ross, talking about the real Rick Ross, and he essentially says, "Yo, man, I sued him for him taking my name, copy my likeness, and pretty much just taking my image, and really out of allowed him to use my name if he just gave me $200,000 because at that time." The house for like I think he said his mom or something like that was in like foreclosure or like it was about to be they were about to lose it and they owed that amount of money. And if it's like yo, if we could have just paid that off, I wouldn't give a fuck about the name. You know what I mean? Like obviously this is a guy who's probably made a lot of money while dealing drugs, but of course after he got arrested and he did his time, he had to start back from scratch, right?
Like that.
Right.
I just felt that it was so disrespectful that he didn't come and ask me, or he didn't show any consideration, or pay any homage to the fact that he actually took my name. So, but yeah, I probably would have took $250,000. If they'd have said $300,000, I'd have been tickled pink. Because I felt that I didn't need much money to get started.
Meanwhile, they spent 1.5?
1.5 million. I owe them right now. I owe them $1 million.
What?
Yeah, I'm $1 million. I got $1 million judgment against
Because you
me.
have to pay their legal fees.
I had to pay their legal fees.
Oh my!
And then the
God.
judge was like, "Oh well, I don't believe you guys actually spend 1.5 million, but maybe $1 million."
Oh my God!
She gave me $1 million judgment.
Isn't that insane? For your name, your fucking name, and you can't appeal this.
Well, we appealed it, but once you lose to the appeals court, you're not going to the Supreme Court or anything like that there. So, yeah, that's how he wound up being able to continue to use the name. He changed to Rose.
Wow, that's one of the things that, and I don't know if this is the that's one of the things I do like when people file frivolous lawsuits and they basically wasted the court's time and they don't really have much merit. Even though I do think his claim would have had merit, a lot of times the court will grant that the person who sued has to pay the legal fees of the person who was victorious, right? Because they're saying, you wasted their time and you wasted their money by having them come in here to defend a frivolous lawsuit. So once they grant that judgment, they usually try to get the compensation for whatever was paid in terms of legal fees. You can imagine Rick Ross, even at that time, right? Like, you know what I mean? Probably a shit ton of lawyers. They're probably getting paid top dollar. Also, the record label got their lawyers working on this shit because they're spending money marketing the name Rick Ross. So they then tell this guy, Freeway Rick Ross, hey, listen, we spent $1 million or $1.5 million in legal fees. You got to now pay it back, and you know he just don't got it.
Zato,
Yeah.
because they thought they might lose.
Right.
If this judge picks a different date,
Yeah.
you know, we go to trial.
Right.
And they didn't want to go to trial. I think if they went to trial, everybody in LA would have they would have hammered him. Like, you know, you stole that name. If you'd have heard the thing that he did, you know, because we did his deposition. We took his depo. That was the first
Wow, that's crazy.
time I ever met him in person. You know, he wouldn't shake my hand either.
Really?
No, when he walked in, all the attorneys, it was a big table. It was about 12 people in the room, and he walks in, and he walks around the table, shakes everybody, including my lawyer. He shakes my lawyer's hands and everybody, and I stood up to shake his hand because I don't have no hard feelings, you know, just give me my money.
Right.
So he rolls his eyes at me and walks away, turn his little shoulder like,
Wow.
you know, like, I ain't, you know. And then he comes up with this, oh my goodness, I don't know where he got the story from. He said he played football in high school, and the whole team was called the Big East. And some guy was trying to call him Big East and accidentally called him the Big Boss, and then somebody else called him Rick Ross. It went from Big Boss to Rick Ross. That's his story.
That's the dumbest.
How he came up with the name Rick Ross.
That's the dumbest fucking story I've ever heard in my life.
If I'd have been the judge, I would have hammered him just for saying, you know, come in my courtroom lying like that. I would have been
That's the dumbest. But that's impossible. If he's rapping about drug dealing and money, it's impossible.
Yeah, yo, the reality is that, of course, Rick Ross took this guy's likeness and the guy's name, but the truth of the matter is that when you don't have proper representation and you're in a fucked up position like this guy's in because he's got incarcerated and now he has to get back free and like put his life back on track, yeah, you can't really do anything. You know, I think, and I was wondering, I was like, yo, I think he should have took a different approach. Like, don't be that adversarial, even though I think Ross just wasn't cooperating. I think Ross took the name hoping this nigga was never going to get out of jail. And then this guy got out of jail not too long after, you know, he really popped off, and it was just like, fuck. If you know, it's crazy how hip hop changed. Back then, bro, like, these days we love Gunna. Like, we don't give a fuck if Gunna snitched, right? Like, who gives a fuck, right? Back then, if your snitch is over, if your CO is over, if you're not like whatever you said you are, it's over. But like these days, I think Ross would have said, "Nigga, I don't give a fuck if I took your name." Like, yo, who cares? So I think if it was in this day and age, he probably would have said, "Yo, let's just collaborate, man," because now everybody does a bunch of fraud shit. I don't think people get canceled for none of that shit no more.
Possible that he doesn't know who you are. Impossible. Impossible. Not possible.
I agree.
Everybody knew. I knew who you were. I had heard the story.
Well, you know,
I don't even remember when I read about it.
When Gary Webb published a story in '96 with the San Jose Mercury News.
Ross knew who you were, man. He just finessed the name. And of course, let me tell you, when y'all go against these record labels, y'all are gonna lose, bro. These record labels, they're spending millions of dollars in marketing dollars. They weren't gonna
Man, oh man, oh man. So Freeway Ricky went on to Joe Rogan's podcast and he talked about how Rick Ross stole his name. Honestly, I don't know if anyone's honestly surprised that this came out or this happened, because like it should be very obvious that, yeah, of course Rick Ross stole the man's name. Like, it's Ricky Rose, the biggest boss. Like, you shouldn't really, you feel me, act surprised that he's stealing, you feel me, someone else's name. It's Rick Ross, man. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, Rick Ross, he's a goat, but like, man, that always never made sense to me how he took another man's name and like just nothing comes out of it. But hey, it is what it is. Like that's all you really could say about a situation like that, honestly. But it's your boy Big X News. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let me know how you guys feel about the whole situation. And I am out.